Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the 2024 World Champion. In the green, it's Clem. But up against the 2023 StarCraft 2 World Champion, we have in the blue, it's Oliveira. A best of 7 all-Terran showdown to determine who will be the champion of the $10,000 BGE Stara Zagora showdown, a grassroots community organization from Bulgaria. But before we start things off, Clem gets 1 point to kick it off because he made it through the winner's bracket and gets a slight advantage. And hopefully you'll make it through the winter bracket and get a slight advantage by smashing that like button and maybe even subscribing. And Jimmy, what? 1,422 likes on this video, on this cast, this grand finals. I'll cast another one, and I'll probably do it anyways. I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. A mere match indeed. The production tabs are identical so far, or at least close to it, as we have a starport on the way for Clem. Meanwhile, a reactor for his Reapers for Oliveira. So going with a more ground-based style early on. Now, TVT is a chess boxing match, where both sides go back to their corner and think about their strategies before punching each other in the face and hopefully not receiving more brain damage than their opponent. But we're going to try to parse through it, as every single one of these early game Terran units is so incredibly deadly in the right hands, and maybe less so in mine, but I digress. The early 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion, just something to keep map control. You can't just go, this is the one matchup where you can't just go Marines, because until you get the production level and the upgrades and all these other bells and whistles and combat shields and stim pack drugs and medevac, the list goes on. Actually, that was kind of the end of the list, but either way. Until you get all those things, there are so many opportunities for your Terran opponent to take advantage of your lack of tech. And that's why both players have opted for Reaper, Hellion. Clem has a tank. Medevac's coming out now and just now filling in Marines as they want to tech up. But the action begins early. Medevac loaded up, the Reaper Hellion out there, but there's not enough reinforcements. Tank drops to the ground. Siege tanks can get bounced around as well. And actually, Oliveira manages to catch out most of these units. The tank will be saved. The small skirmish is technically won by the Chinese Terran, but Clem is on the chase. He's chasing him with a tank and a medevac. What a throwback. Though, of course, unsieged here, and probably a good thing. The Cyclone will take down the Reapers. 4 SCVs are taken down by that early advantage Oliveira was able to carve out. He has 2 SCV advantage now, which, since both of them have access to the exact same things, we can draw some significant conclusions in a way that we wouldn't in a less Terran-centric matchup. Medevacs headed out on both sides. Those Cyclones get a bonus to mechanical units, which include SCVs. Well, it's easier to include what it doesn't, which is Marines and Reapers. And that's it on the field right now. SCVs and buildings and Hellions and Cyclones themselves are all mechanical. But here we go, Clem with a siege tank on the other side, holding the ramp, but he loses his Cyclone. Meanwhile, a Liberator using its anti-air attack. Marines at the back scan up to the high ground. Is there any more high ground vision? Technically, yes. There's a Viking on the ground, which also does bonus damage to mechanical, which we've already established is so useful. That Cyclone doing so much damage for Oliveira. Vikings on deck, though, for Clem, getting smashed here. The Liberator sieges up, doesn't get a single shot. Oliveira targets it down. And the former world champion now has a 17 supply lead, 15 supply. It's changing very quickly. He has a supply lead. I'm going to commit to that. Just like both these players have committed to pretty much everything in their opponent's base and minimal back at their own. Third command center about to finish for Oliveira will not be canceled, just slightly delayed, as all the SCVs are pulled. The pitchforks out to defend. More Marines drop out, but Clem, I think, got the worst end of this exchange. He's pre-dropping the mules as soon as he clears out the Marines. But Oliveira is going to have more command centers. He has a better standing army. Nobody has any upgrades. We're way off of that. 19 SCVs dead. So many of these SCVs are bruised. mostly from the siege tank fire earlier. The Viking almost takes out the medevac, but if Clem... Oh my god. Oh no. Oh, well... He's looking for the medevac on its way back. Clem manages to evade it, anticipating exactly that move. Shadow boxing in the air here. And it looks like the medevac will get home. But, yeah, Clem taking a third command center. Oliveira's going to be so happy with that scan. He sees that Clem is just now taking a third command center. Oliveira already has one. Clem doesn't have any additional production. Oliveira's working on barracks 2 and 3. Clem doesn't have any upgrades. There's double NG Bay on the way. Just generally, Oliveira's ahead in pretty much every single metric at the moment. And Clem has, at best, an uphill battle. But here we go. I think Clem might have one more siege tank. Yes, 5-4. So that's something to work with. And siege tanks have always been a strong option for turning the tides. Marine thrown up towards the surface. And the Viking battle. Oh, but Oliveira sieges up first. The Viking advantage goes to the blue. And yeah, that's it. Clem forced to tap it out in game 1. Oliveira gets the better of him and ties things up. Removes that 1 game advantage. And now we're down to a best of 5. But Oliveira with strong execution. I think Clem is not used to playing... We see this versus Reynor as well. The way to match Clem is to meet him where he is, which is faster than you. So Oliveira doing that and actually throwing it into chaos. He loses some of his forces back at home, but he does more damage on the other side. And that's the deciding factor. Clem unable to keep up with it in game 1. And that brings us to Crimson Court. It's a risky endeavor, all right? Sending your entire army across the map and leaving only reinforcements at home is clearly a high-risk, high-reward situation. So I don't know if that's something that Oliveira can replicate on a regular basis, especially now that Clem has dealt with... Oh, you saucy, saucy Frenchman. And are there any other kind? 2 Racks Reaper. This is the laziest / most efficient proxy rack. So, you go in, you scout the gases. All right, that's what a good Terran does. We scout. Does he have a second gas? He's not he didn't even scout for the gas. He scouted if he was mining it. That's how efficient Oliveira is. And now Clem is using that information against him. The second Rax was just... He literally built it. He has his own little express exit route there. But he built it just out of vision range because both players, I'm sure, are well aware of the standard scouting pattern. And yes, there is. You don't just scour the entire base. This isn't Bronze League Heroes. Citation needed. But it is TVT, which is like 50% of Bronze League Heroes. And also, apparently, World Championship Finals over the last 2 years. But I digress. The Reapers... back and forth. They'll walk it off. Well, glide. They'll heal if they go for a short time without combat. But now Clem pulling those extra Reapers. And that's the big advantage. The surprise Reapers. Though it's 2 versus 2. I think this is already a giveaway. Clem gets a kill. 1v1 though. Obviously Clem gonna win this fight. Knocks down the Reaper, but look, a Hellion. Wait, where are you going? Optimistic route. And everyone dies. The Grim Reaper is called in. As both Reapers from both sides are taken out. Now, I think that gives a slight advantage to Clem because it all happened on Oliveira's side of the map. Okay, so all the information, and by the time that Oliveira comes across the map with any sort of extra units, Clem will have a response. So it's better to fight on their lawn than on yours, because they'll be trampling all over your grass otherwise. Youths. Single Reaper in the main. Spots the starport timing and delays it. Oliveira doing a great job microing those Hellions. Oliveira doing a pretty good job microing those Hellions. The Reaper Marine pops out of the barracks, takes it down. Almost gets a second SCV. Full scout there. So Clem maintains a 2 SCV advantage. And this is partially helped by the fact that Oliveira, he expanded to the high ground. And this is one of those scenarios where it does really matter. Because between the flight time and the orbital morphing building, morphing. Clem has ground out those extra SCVs, despite losing a couple back at home. So the flight time is usually worth about 3 SCVs building. And that's pretty much what we see here. But Oliveira's making a 3rd command center as well. So he just has to be careful. I love that he waited that split second till it locked onto the medevac, but Clem, he's got the SCV repair hug. Oh, but the damage, it's not out damaging it. Well, the Cyclone can't really move. It's pretty notorious for struggling to move when being repaired. As its hitbox is surprisingly large, much like your mother's. But the 3rd command center is on the way now for Clem. As Stim, a quick Stim rush, as is not, it makes a lot of sense considering the 2nd barracks. He even moved the 2nd barracks out of that kind of more vulnerable position into his production line, in the most literal sense. But here comes Oliveira with a bare-bones push, but a dangerous one nonetheless. Is there even a siege tank from Clem? No. So infinitely more siege tanks right now for Oliveira. That medevac dodges away from the Cyclone. There's a lot of Marines here for Clem, but they can't really get an angle on this. What a nasty position to deal with, but... Oh, a Liberator at the back as well. Stabs into the mineral line. And... wow. Okay. Oliveira keeping the pressure on. But what? There's damage oh. Liberator's very good at killing SCVs. Both players are well aware of this. But 7 SCVs killed by Clem while this is happening. So, Oliveira doing terrible, terrible damage to Clem's infrastructure. And Clem surpassing that damage significantly. Look at the worker count. 48 to 36. Oliveira's not making enough progress. And Clem actually brought the Liberator back. In just that Liberator, he takes down the medevac. It's time to go. You gotta get out of there. It might be too late to retreat, actually. He already took a lot of damage. There's the medevac, and Clem. Let's see the boosted chase. Oh, the Marines might be able to kill these 2 tanks. And with it, oh no. That is a devastating blow. That was Oliveira's main advantage, was the early tack and a better tank count. And that no longer exists. So Clem now has the advantage in everything. I guess technically Oliveira has 1 Viking, whereas Clem has not yet built any. But the upgrades are slightly quicker. Clem even sieging up another Liberator, getting another SCV. Drop in the main. Looking to pick off that Viking. In the span of a boost, he dropped it, got the damage done. And before the boost itself, oh my god. And just blanking away at the SCVs, adding up the damage. And now, Oliveira, now TVT, when you get to this sort of, this advanced macro stage, when we're getting to 100 to 200 supply, but neither player's really maxed out and banking up, things can go very wrong very quickly. Siege tanks are one of the most efficient units in the game at ruining your entire day. And while both players will have access to them, attacking into the tanks is a whole nother effort. Of course, Clem is probably the best in the world at it. And that's why he's a world champion, believe it or not. That's how that works. I would say TVT is probably his worst matchup overall. That doesn't mean bad, that just means marginally worse than being the best. Oliveira, on the other hand, is a much more strategic player, which is sometimes used as a nice way to say slower. But he does, his main strength is big timing attacks. Finding those opportunities to hit when your opponent is weakest and you're strongest. Even if in the overarching scheme of things, they have the advantage. There are points and places where they are, what is it? Viking gets liberated, and the liberator repels the Viking. That was a very interesting exchange. Oh, here comes Clem. He's got everything put together. High ground vision. Tank is in range. Just one, though. That means Oliveira is going to be able to take out one tank to start. But Clem is moving the tanks forward. He's going to eat the tank losses to make sure he removes it from this position. It's not cost effective, but it is effective. And sitting on his doorstep here. We talked about lawns earlier. We're going to go back to it. Sitting on the doorstep is going to drag all of Oliveira's attention. Meanwhile, Clem back at home working on 4th Command Center. Oliveira doing it as well. Oh, but Clem unsieges. It's such a key timing. Might be able to pick up those tanks and get out. But Oliveira on the chase. Oh, reinforcements have arrived, though. Forced to turn it around. Accidental pickup on the Marines. And the siege tanks are driven out. But a well-timed engagement allows Oliveira some breathing room for now. Still, though, the production level is maintained. Clem has the advantage overall. And will, while they both have a similar economy with similar production, he'll maintain it. 40 supply lead for now. Clem has not added on any extra barracks. What an interesting setup on that production line in the main. Oliveira splits and stims. He's going straight into the tanks, and he crushes through. Gets 4 tanks, but at the same time, Clem drops into the back, and the main base is exposed. A single siege tank to repel it, but it's getting a lot of shots off, and Oliveira holds the line back at home. But at what cost? What are the overall losses here? Oliveira kills. No, it's a win. It's a win. The thing is, Clem's supply went up because he has such a high level of production back at home. His supply barely dipped during all of that. He's able to throw 20, 30, 40 supply away to fight and do it all again less than a minute later, because that is the level of infrastructure and the level of income he has. And now he's taken that 4th base. Oliveira's doing the same. He's just a half step behind. He's actually got... He had the slight 2-2 advantage on the upgrades. Snipes off a medevac. And these little moves add up. But are they quickly enough multiply? 2 more starports on the way for Clem, who's transitioning into that air superiority composition. Vikings, in order to knock all the medevacs out of the sky, and then maybe liberators to carve open the map and give you the ability to remove their siege tanks entirely. Now we got... That's a tech lab on the way. Ravens can have that same effect as well. Clem has +1 mech weapons done for his siege tanks. He's working on +2. I believe it's the +2 upgrades that allow you to kill other siege tanks in 1 less hit, as well as obviously doing a lot more damage to the Marine. Ravens on the way. Sensor towers dotting the field. A massive doom drop from Oliveira. A bit of a Hail Mary play. But he needs something to shift as soon as possible. And this is the big move. He goes straight for the main. I think 1 siege tank will be in position, and that's the extent. Clem is actually coming all the way back to defend. He hits a great timing here. Might be able to take out one of the starports. The medevacs are wandering back in. Clem keeps track of them in time. A pickup will lose 1 medevac full of Marines. But very importantly, he's fighting this. Ooh. The Marines actually split to kill the tank before being incinerated by the planetary fortress. But Oliveira only loses 1 medevac Marines. He kills a starport, and he pulls the entire army off the map. So strategically, a great move from Oliveira to give himself some breathing room. And now, that 200 supply. The great equalizer. Yes, Clem has more in the bank, and his upgrades are slightly better. But the army supplies, well, actually, Oliveira has technically even more, especially after killing these 2 tanks. He's jamming his tanks into position. Clem could be caught between a rock and a hard place here. The tanks obliterating swaths of Marines and just crushing through. But Clem has already replaced these units. Oliveira loses a huge amount of Marines. He kills 26, he loses 60 in that tiny engagement there. And now Clem with 2 medevacs of units. trying to crush in. One siege tank shot. No, +3. Oh, that's such a huge deal. That is, of these two massive engagements, that is the biggest deal. That +3 weapons upgrade will give Clem a now near permanent advantage. Like 3 minutes until Oliveira can catch up on it. He's gonna rebuild another energy bay, but he already queued it up on the second one. But now, even though Oliveira has dragged this match back to near even, Clem's Marines are just going to be better. And I'm not talking about the micro. Like, the medevac count is so damn high. There's a chance Clem switched into this airbase composition too early. But the anti-armor missile certainly softens things up even more for the Marines, which are already trading much more efficiently. And that engineering base snipe may have reverberating consequences as time goes on. And not much time, like right now. Those Marines simply can't fight. Clem's Marines will win. The anti-armor missile plus the upgrade advantage. And the medevac count, Oliveira had a dozen, and now he's down to 2. Another anti-armor missile, and those Marines shredded by Clem. And it turns that quickly. It goes from this chess match at maxed out to Clem's victory in like less than 2 minutes, as the Marines just crush their way through, and Clem is able to maintain control. Oliveira clearly knows what he wants to do in order to drag himself back into it, but he just can't. He can't follow it up. He can't do the 1-2 punch. After the first punch, Clem punches back. And here we are. 2-1 Clem. Game 4. Technically 3, but as for the 1 game advantage, so in tournaments with a double elimination bracket, the player who doesn't lose a single series gets a benefit, in this case, of having 1 game lead, which means Oliveira needs to win 4, Clem only needs to win 3 in the grand final. I'm not sure if Clem beat Oliveira to knock him down, because that would be extra appropriate. But the other method I've seen used is 2 best-of-5s, where a best-of-5, and if the player from the winner's bracket wins, then that's it. They win the tournament. Whereas it gets reset if the player from the loser's bracket wins. Like if Oliveira won a best-of-5, then we'd reset and play another best-of-5. I personally hate that. I think that's dumb and confusing. The 1 game advantage, I'm also not a massive fan of. I get giving an advantage to someone from the winner's bracket because they should get an advantage for winning all of the games or all of the series. But at the same time, the kind of entertainment caster side of me, which is most of the sides. If you want to see more sides, make sure to like and subscribe. But I kind of think it should just be 0-0. But I get it. Every competition has their own way of handling it. Let me know in the comments if for some reason I ever put on a tournament myself instead of just enjoying the great efforts, and who am I to criticize? People who are putting on amazing tournaments. Shout out to Bellum Gens Elite for doing so, the Bulgarian community group and esports organization. Once again, if you're happen to be a Bulgarian sponsor, make sure to check them out. Like, the StarCraft community. While there might not be, not dozens, but there are a lot of committed and, based on those YouTube analytics, relatively mature and possibly wealthy individuals. I'm hoping for the best. It is quite a self-selecting demographic. What I'm trying to say is StarCraft 2 is a good game, and you should check it out. Which is a weird time to say it, like 30 minutes into a StarCraft 2 finals video. But still, here we are. Like and subscribe if you would agree. Meanwhile, Reapers. Single Cyclone. Clem's fighting it. Cyclone's not nearly as dangerous as they seem, as 2 Reapers and a Hellion able to deal with it. But at the same time, Oliveira, on the other side, gets the Reapers into the main. A Cyclone of Clem's is about to pop out, but 5 SCVs dead. Make that 6. Though the delay on the command center is just as, if not more, significant, as Clem will be finishing his command center. Oliveira's been delayed. Second Cyclone comes out, so Clem might have a few less SCVs, but he can make up that gap quickly when he finishes the command center. Oh, the cyclone. Whoa, what a perfect grenade. What a save. And here we go. The dropship, medevac micro, cyclones popping in and out. Oliveira, where are you? Hello? There's nothing here. Oh, he was anticipating the drop, but Clem bamboozled him by just waltzing in the front door. And the grenade's coming off. He gets the medevac, but if there's even a single lock onto this medevac, the cooldown, that actually ends up being a pretty solid defense here for Oliveira. In fact, if he could get that medevac with both the cyclones, yeah, it's a big if. I can't believe Clem is over here with like a single. He's got a medevac that a strong gust of wind would knock out of the sky, and he's like, I don't know, there's maybe a little opportunity here. And that's what makes him a world champion. But Oliveira and his deflection and turnaround of it also makes him a world champion. So here we are. Clem opting for interference matrix for his ravens. That first raven going to be shut down. And now we go back to our corners. After all the fire and fury of the early game, it's macro time. Macro Roni with hold the cheese. As neither player trying any sort of... What? SCVs, you run out of budget problems? The SCVs went to repair the medevac and the cyclone and then just said, no, maybe not. Oliveira chasing down. Three ravens versus two. This is going to get real weird here. I don't think he has quite enough energy for interference matrices on all the ravens, but he's building it up. In 10 more seconds, he'll have 3 lockdowns, which is effectively what they are, in order to deal with this. The command center's about to finish. Here we go. Drops the auto turrets. The boys are pulled. And, well, the ravens, well, the command center lives. Clem still has more workers. Oliveira does have a third command center. And Clem has all 3 racks up. Whereas Oliveira is just now starting barracks 2 and 3. Which is quite a disparity here. Yo, those ravens are in a very precarious position. Clem microing doesn't quite kill off that last Viking. The duels between each set of units, I'm not actually sure who comes out on top here. Well, in the general grand scheme of things, Clem is ahead. He has his third command center on location. He has more production. He's got the double engineering base started, but Oliveira still has map control and a very, very tentative air control. He's got 4 Vikings to 2 Ravens to 1. But that is not enough to really command the map. Not at this stage of the game. So, Clem, in supply and general macro, is slightly ahead, but Oliveira still has a lot of options. So here we are again. This seems to be the story of the series so far, which is Clem constantly having a slight advantage and Oliveira finding ways to cut into it. Unfortunately, never quite enough to do so, at least since game 1. That's the thing, is Clem puts himself in a position where it's going to take 2 or 3 big moves from Oliveira in order to turn the tides. Whereas if Clem makes 1 big move at this stage, that's probably enough to claim victory. That's the advantage of having that level of infrastructure so early, having that unit composition. It's not unbeatable. It's just unforgiving. What if we did StarCraft 2 like, what is it, wrestling or MMA or something, where the world champion challenges or gets challenged by someone else who's doing really... I mean, we kind of do that. But if Oliveira, like, if Clem wins a tournament and then he gets into the ring with Oliveira, if we translated that to StarCraft 2, how that would be handled. I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. And it's obviously more entertaining to have everyone in these tournaments. But I also think that'd be an interesting format as well, to have like the World Championship belt, which would have to be resized dramatically depending on who we're putting it on. But Big Gabe obviously would struggle. But I digress. Clem. Oliveira actually has the upgrade advantage. Not by a huge margin, but he's going to be about 20-30 seconds ahead on his +2/+2. Which is not... You saw how big a deal that single upgrade advantage was in the last match. Also, Oliveira has his 4th base already on location before Clem has even moved to land it. Now, here we go. Clem does have a higher army supply, but you have to bring it across the map. A double drop heading out. There's no sensor tower over here yet. Yeah, there we go, from Oliveira. Just get that advance warning, because if they show up on your lawn before you realize it, it's already too late. So the double drop to the north side, dropping on the very edge of that sensor tower. Single Marine heading in. Scan. Spots the main army. Here comes Clem. He's got a full energy Raven. Can scramble 2 of the tanks. And the tank's just shelling over the top. Vikings knocking out his opponent's Vikings. But Oliveira, 8-7 in the Viking count. And that is just too entrenched of a position. The tanks will unsiege on both sides. A good old-fashioned Marine tank Viking match. Oliveira comes back. I don't know if he realizes that upgrade advantage he's about to have. I don't know if he timed it out. But both sides going for the starports. Clems are a little quicker, but clearly working their way towards that supreme late game. A scan just barely misses the doom drop headed out from Clem. Oliveira is pretty far out of position to deal with this. There are several missile turrets, but not enough to stop 5 medevacs from unloading. Oliveira has no idea this is coming. A bit of a mistake not to have any vision to this south side. And the mass drop into the main. He'll lose 1 medevac in the process, but that's acceptable losses. And now the main base is under assault. Oliveira comes back to defend. He will have the 2-2 advantage in this fight. A scramble on one of the tanks. And actually, well, at the same time, Clem is darting in towards the 4th base. The tanks are unsieged. He's getting chased behind the planetary. Tanks sieging on both sides. Oliveira working his way back to defend. I think he may have been able to shut this down just barely before it became a total game-ending disaster. And in fact, he actually has more supply coming out of this, as Clem was not able to get the critical damage in the main base, and he wasn't able to take out the 4th. So Oliveira actually has more army supply. He lost some of the SCVs and filled it in with army. He has his 3-3 on the way, and he has some advantages here. But Clem is still in the center of the map, holding, looking for that critical engagement. But a single Raven will pry open the map. Anti-armor missile splits and stems. The tanks of the back line still shelling, though. A lot more medevacs for Clem. The Marines will survive. Medevacs take it out. There's no anti-air to stop him from dropping on top of the tanks, and the tanks unleashing on their own brothers. But Oliveira, the bloodbath in the battle lines. You could see it scattered across the field. Clem retakes the supply advantage, if only just. More Vikings on the way. You can't retreat with all your siege tanks simultaneously. That could be a devastating mistake. and now retreats to more tanks. He has mostly tanks. Oliveira has 13 tanks and 11 Marines. Now the tank's still shelling. 3 tanks badly bruised on this line. Scrambles 1. Will be taken out. Retreats further back to his secondary lines. But Clem has ground out a 20 supply advantage. The upgrades, dead even. +2 mech weapons, dead even. 3-3, slight advantage for Oliveira, still about a minute out. Another drop towards the main as Clem. Well, that's not a drop. I take it. Oh, it's a single drop. But this base, surprisingly vulnerable. He should be able to save it, but that will drag him far out of position. He loses a Raven. And now the 4th base. And that's all it takes, though. He gets caught on the rotation to the south side, and now the tanks are in range of the planetary fortress. And Oliveira has been scrambling to defend against Clem on multiple sides. The Ravens just wander in. Clem says, nevermore. And down goes so much. The anti-armor missile softening up the tanks. And Oliveira down 50 supply. The Marines will make their way through. And it looks like he'll break out. But at what cost? A devastating fight. 17 SCVs were pulled into the fray and contributed their part, their very short and violent part, to the victory for Oliveira in that battle. But the war, on the other hand, is looking quite rough. The Vikings snipe off another medevac. The standoff continues. Oliveira will have a supply advantage for 15 more, or upgrade advantage for 15 more seconds. I don't think we're going to see much of an engagement. The Viking count. Clem with 9 of them. Oh, the unsiege. And that's enough. Scrambles 3. The tank lines are drawn, but not all of Oliveira's tanks can fire. Clem is now just leapfrogging his way forward. He's got money in the bank. He's got 5 bases up and running, 83 SCVs. He's got all the upgrades and the infrastructure he could want. Just carving his way through. Just gonna snipe off these tanks. There's one more on the back line. And, oh, but the full scramble. The Ravens dive forward. They all die. Anti-armor missile. And it's not gonna be enough. Clem will take another. 3-1 Clem. A devastating fight. Set of fights there. But Oliveira ends up in just a untenable position. Clem very diligent about making... He doesn't focus entirely on the air, but air superiority is everything in TVT. Having that control of the skies means you can move your tanks forward. You have high ground vision. You actually have more vision with those air units. And it forces your opponent to constantly scan in order to even compete with your siege techs. So Clem adding in that 10, 20, maybe 30 supply of air makes all the difference in compounding your advantage. If, a massive and important if, you're able to control those air units without throwing them away in every fight. We saw at the end Oliveira really struggling to keep any of his air units alive, because once you start falling down the stairs in that department, it's hard to stop yourself. Because every fight, you need to control them better and better with less and less units. And Clem, fully aware of that, takes full advantage. And so far, it seems like Clem is just not even a half step, like a quarter step ahead. But that's enough. 3-1 Clem. One more game, and he will claim victory, and a decisive victory at that. And if he's able to do so, I think that it becomes clear. Not that there were any doubts after his 5-0 versus Cyril, but I think it becomes clear Clem is truly the new world champion, as he will have almost embarrassed Cyril, and then not too long later taken out the former world champion as well. But I don't know. It just feels like Oliveira against any other Terran, and I think that's how we got here, but against any other Terran, he would be making all the right moves. It's just Clem is just a little more efficient. The bully SCV plays, bringing the SCV along to literally draw shots. Clem is very aware it's not on its own. All right. He actually pulled away. Oh, he hid the SCV to the north side just to make sure that the Reapers would not be nearly as dangerous. He knows what he's looking at. A little late on the Reapers in order to kill the SCV building the command center. He wants it anyway. Wow. Wow, Clem. So greedy. He throws the grenade on the ramp to go back and murder that SCV, and it costs him a Reaper, but he's still working it here. Well, this is quite an exchange. Billy? Who wins that? The Reaper trying to come in. Oh, Clem. Well, Reaper gets away with it. Cyclones and medevacs on the way. The classic exchange. And a tech lab on the starport immediately behind for Clem. And this is where the fun begins. The early starport aggression. Air control of a different sort. Working in towards the edge where he knows Oliveira is looking to defend. And Clem just juggling the side. Where are the Cyclones? There they are. They were in the main, so Clem chose the least obvious path, which is directly in the front. He went for the most, therefore, least obvious location to attack. And it works out. He's able to take, well, he killed 4 Marines. Oliveira killed a Cyclone, and you know what? It wasn't a resounding success for the Frenchman. And now the double Cyclone back. I don't know how I feel about this, as the meta Cyclones are not as ubiquitous in all parts of the game like they were after the totally necessary and not completely random rework. But now they've been toned down a bit, but are still a staple of the early game against both Terran and against Protoss because of their anti-mechanical capabilities. And they're like, who needs a Viking when you could just have a Cyclone? Which actually is seemingly the logic for much of the early game in Terran versus Terran. Gone are the days of the early mass Viking, like, kind of duels. So it's a lot more active to go back and forth with medevacs and Cyclones. But it's also a very micro-intensive sort of situation. Even more so than the Viking Wars, which kind of encourage passivity because having 2 more Vikings makes all the difference. Oliveira sends out 2 medevacs, and they're going to have stim. Clem sends out 1 medevac without stim. There are 2 Cyclones ready. Clem now boosting back home. Oliveira heading towards Clem's base. So here we are. Once again, it's drop a clock. And here's time. I mean, Oliveira. And just pre-splitting Marines. And shuts the... Oh, no, he scrambled the medevacs. Don't expect some of us in the wreckage, brothers. So you can't get back in the medevacs if they get interference matrix. Also, they can't boost, technically. But an interesting exchange there. And kind of a rare sight, but an effective one. So now, third command centers. Both players with orbitals. And it is Oliveira who's the first to land his on location. Though he's down a few SCVs. With that tank sieged up, it's likely he'll be able to make up some of that gap. And again, whoa, there's a pretty significant upgrade. Oh, no, no, no. 2 X is a huge deal. Especially at this stage. Starport units are so precious. Clem realizes the Marines got hit by a tank and actually... Oh, the stamps! The chase is on. On both sides. Clem. Danger zone. He boosts. And... Well, Oliveira loaded to a medevac to chase. He gets out. Bit of a trench run situation. Clem maintains a slight worker advantage, but Oliveira's going to have the upgrades, and he's going to have, it's going to be about even on workers. Right. Combat shields still not done for either side, meaning siege tanks are an existential threat to Marines, which they always are, but like even more existential. Anyway, they hit real hard. This is an optimistic move here. Oh no, that triple scramble! Oh my. I like my eggs like I like my siege tanks. Over easy. No, scrambled. Not both, honestly. I'll probably scramble. Not important right now. Oliveira, committing to that attack was... Oh my, wow. He scrambled it to stop the boost. So he loses the medevac, but keeps the tank. Oh, no, 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 the SCV rally point. Oh, no. Oliveira slipping here. I think that ill-fated attack has really... Oh my. The drop-on-drop action, but... Again, Clem just a little too fast, pulls back, and keeps the medevac alive. And now, again, 20 supply advantage for Clem. But Oliveira's going to have over a minute of 2-2 versus the 2-2 upgrades of Clem. That is a significant disparity. That is a lot of time to work with. At the very least, that's going to give him some breathing room when it comes to defense. How about the production? A marked disparity here. Clem is opting for a second factory, whereas Oliveira is getting 3 more barracks. Though he already has a second factory. Wait, no, is Clem getting a third factory? No, second factory. Actually, Clem's production across the board is a little later. So Oliveira is starting to close the gap economically. And in his infrastructure, but it comes down to this fight. 2-2 is done. Anti-armor missile hits a lot of the army and the medevacs. I think Oliveira saw an opportunity and then he realized his upgrades were just seconds away. So he pulled back, but this has given Clem an opportunity. Here's the stim. He's got 2-2 done. He clearly wants to fight. But those Ravens are just the crowbar to pry open the defenses. A single Marine, so brave, super dead. Oliveira with a massive flank to the south. The scans and counter scans and Venn dia scans. Both sides just constantly scanning across the middle of the map. Clem is maxed out. Oliveira will be next. Though he's a little supply bot at 196. I'll forgive him. 3-3 starts. Clem now catching up in those upgrades. Catching upgrades. Yep. Yeah. Single Marine. Ooh, a scan. And... Scrambles one. Oliveira looking for the massive flank. This is it. This could decide the tournament. Either Oliveira breaks out of this position. And he's got a good opportunity. Clem not even looking to the south side. He's going to find it now. But there's an entire army down there. What is he waiting for? It's not going to get any easier. At reinforcements are on the way. Oliveira. He's maxed out. Here we go. The tanks from the south. Or the tanks looking towards the south. Scrambles 3 tanks. But there's no siege tanks to back this up. The siege tanks of Clem are firing in all directions. His reinforcements are coming in and taking out the tanks of Oliveira. And a beautiful near 360-degree surround is put down by Clem's focused breakout. The Marines are not nearly enough. The siege tanks are required. And those artillery pieces are more than enough to carry Clem through on the cusp of victory. The Vikings chasing down the medevacs. Supply depots that he's cutting off the reinforcements to the 4th and the 5th base. If the 3rd falls, Oliveira falls with it. The tanks on the high ground. The upgrades are too far out to be of help. The army supplies. Severe advantage for the Frenchman. He's got to go now. The boys are pulled. The splits and the stims. He's clearing the tanks. And Oliveira may break out. 19 SCVs dead, though, and a heavy cost. And he doesn't throw Clem out of the base. He just knocks him back for now. And Clem maintains that 40 supply advantage. It seems like he's enjoyed it almost every game of this series. And more Ravens on the way. He's continuing to produce them. More scrambles. Marines. There's no medevacs to back him up. Clem stands his ground. And this is where Oliveira dies. The tanks. Oh, so much paid in blood. The Marines obliterated. A 50 supply gap. The upgrades are finishing. But who's left to enjoy them? Clem angles to the south. Infantry weapons level 3 now for Clem. Another command center under fire. Oliveira with a semi-desperate, smart move in this scenario. Losing that southern base is not nearly as important as trying to get Clem on the back foot here. Oh, those tanks getting pasted onto the ground. Or those Marines, rather. I guess the tanks, technically, but the Planetary's holding, but it's draining more income than it's gaining right now. The Ravens have just been so beautiful out of Clem. Oh my god! He gains the ramp, but at such a heavy price. Those siege tanks continue annihilating Marines on both sides. Scrambles a couple. A much less decisive fight. The contrast of the Marine blood on the pasty fields of Ghost River is beautiful and terrible. 200 to 150 Marines in just 15 minutes dead. How many tanks? 16 and 15. But Oliveira has managed to reclaim. He didn't lose, at least permanently, any of his mining locations. He now has more SCVs. His army supply is still severely lacking. But Clem has not been able to knock him out. I think most appropriate for Oliveira and his namesake. He's on the ropes. Or is it like an octagon situation? I don't know, either way. But he's not dead yet. And it's TVT, so one bad fight into the tanks. But that's so many Ravens. He's used them so well. This is like the last dimension that Clem rarely took advantage of. But here we go. Another huge surround for Oliveira. But the medevacs, the siege tanks, picking targets and knocking them out. Oliveira again is cleared from the field as Clem. Now he has the Liberators, the final component in the double siege push. And he has all the tools with which to claim victory. And just scrambling tanks. He's knocking them out one by one by one. And now he's won it all. 4-1 for Clem, the world champion, over the former one. In a decisive demonstration of his dominance in not only Terran versus Zerg and Protoss, but clearly has the strongest grasp on Terran versus Terran as well. truly the best player in the world right now. Team Liquid's Clem will claim yet another victory in what seems to be an unending train of success. And I'm looking forward to who he steamrolls next. Hopefully you enjoyed. Shout out to Bellum Gens Elite, BGE Esports over in Bulgaria for putting on this tournament. And I hope I made your day just a little bit better. If you got the means and motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. And if you haven't yet checked out the second channel, Winter Gaming TV, for other games, which you might not care about, and that's fair. But either way, I hope I made your day just a little bit better. And I'll see you next time. Congratulations to Clem, and well fought by Oliveira. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.